All right, let's take you live to SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo for the latest from London, where Africa Week has kicked off at King's College. The event is spotlighting Renewing African Agency and the New World Disorder with a keynote address by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Thoko Didiza. Khayelihle, thank you so much for joining us. It's an important celebration, right, especially when you look at the academics, researchers, as well as students. Let's talk about what's on the agenda.
Well, certainly, Bongo, it's quite a very pivotal moment here in the British capital. So it's all about really just looking at very key conversations. It's all about really looking at this African agency. As you know, that the King's College really prides itself as one of those institutions when you talk about innovation, when you talk about solutions as well. It's always been really at the center of finding that. But really to explore and really the significance of tonight, we do join by Professor Mendane Tadesse, a co-convener, of course, from the African Public Square. So, Prof, looking at the rationale behind this engagement, tell us about the importance of tonight.
I think this one is important. It's about African agency, and for several reasons. One is that, African agency has always been a slogan, not a strategy. Africa did not have the strategy, to engage and harness and sustain and renew its agency. It's important because at this moment in time, there is this global disorder and, geopolitical chaos. In such kind of geopolitical chaos, you need some political deterrence. You need a negotiating power. You need strategies of alliance building. You need leadership, to meet up to the new challenges and, strategize coherently, decisively.
And just once again, Prof, we look at the time, we look at what's unfolding in the Middle East. We know the implications. Africa won't be spared. If the global supply chains are affected, inevitably, if you talk about African Continental Free Trade Area, that may really have a very big impact. But really just coming back to tonight, we're expecting to hear from South Africa's National Assembly Speaker and really just about the issue of the geopolitical impact and how the continent should find itself in this world that is ever evolving.
Yes, that's why it needs strategic coherence, it needs unity, it needs a political, voice to navigate, this transition to whatever, the world will be shaped. And I think it's important that rather than, I think the main doctrine should be, supply chains, not slogans. Follow the pipelines. Don't follow the speeches. And we have regional organizations, continental organizations, and they have to focus on what is very important in terms of really, sustaining and renewing African agency. Yeah.
And obviously, Prof, before I let you go, we look at the issues around peace and security in Africa. You look at a very dire situation in the eastern parts of the DRC. You look at the big humanitarian crisis unfolding in Sudan, even South Sudan facing its own challenges. And I would imagine this is a very good platform to bring those issues to the fore for Africa to find those African solutions for the African problems. That's another mantra that has always been used.
Yes, and I think one of the things that we should look at in this discussion and generally in terms of this strategic coherence is that we have to look at not only supply chains but also militarized rents that are inviting, foreign intervention. And these militarized rents and supply chains are also becoming a source of vulnerability for Africa. So I think in terms of peace and security in Africa, what we have to look at is most of these Africa's regional organizations are both mystifying and vulnerable. They are valuable, but they are also mystifying. And the AU mainly is, specifically, it's an embarrassment because it's not, working hard to have, the political voice it needs to have. It doesn't have a strategy. Most of our, talk and our discussions are mainly on, slogans, rhetorics, and the like, without a strategic vision. I think the most important question is, what are the strategic traps Africa is facing? And we need to have an honest discussion. That's why I'm expecting this to be discussed, in the APS.
All right, Professor Didiza, thank you so much indeed for your time. So, you're really giving us a snapshot about what is to be expected here in the British capital in London. So, obviously, also it comes at a very critical time in Africa where we've seen the re-emergence of the unconstitutional changes of government. This was one of the very topical issues at the recently held AU summit in Addis Ababa. So, we're going to be stationed here in London to give you a wall-to-wall coverage around this very critical subject matter. With that, back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Khayelihle Khumalo there. Do stay warm. SABC News reporter, they're live for us in London as Africa Week has officially kicked off, expecting there that keynote address by National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza.